Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's Tuesday, April 27th, public board meeting of the Neshaminy School Board Directors. We will call this meeting to order. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Mrs. Burns, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Parentano. Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mrs. Bowman.
Here.
Ms. Boyle.
Here.
Mrs. Hallenbeck.
Present.
Mr. Kovitz.
Here.
Mr. Marrington.
Here.
Mr. Cirillo.
Here.
And Mr. Sullivan is absent with prior notice. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The board met in executive session this evening prior to this meeting to discuss matters of employment, issues related to labor relations, the purchase or lease of real property, matters related to litigation, and matters related to school safety and security. That will bring us to our announcements. Are there any announcements this evening?
No announcements.
No announcements. Dr. McGee, Superintendent's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Parentano. We are presently in our fourth week since spring break and bringing our secondary students back 5 days a week. And we're in several months having our elementary students back 4 days a week and then recently 5 days a week. Since then, we continue to see kids coming back to school. Even though the incident rate in the area is higher than we had hoped when we first conceived this idea, even as of this Monday, yesterday, there's an additional 50 elementary kids back in school, an additional 20 at the middle school level, and an additional 50 at the high school. So presently we have over 90% of the elementary students in school 5 days a week. 85% of our middle school kids and over 70% of our high school kids. And as you're probably aware, if you're listening, that has not come without challenge, as the incident rate in the county was higher than we had expected. That being said, I can happily say that it looks like over the last 3 weeks that increase has plateaued, and hopefully we'll begin to see a decrease and make this a bit more manageable. I also can say, fortunately, that those who've been COVID positive or needing to be quarantined because of close contacts with a COVID positive, child-wise, we know of no individual that's been extremely ill or hospitalized. If any symptoms, it is cold and flu-like symptoms, and our adults, for the most part, are fully vaccinated. That being said, some of these schools to our north have begun to modify their quarantining procedures, so we don't exclude as many kids for each positive kid. We're watching that closely. We're letting them get out in front of us, and somewhere shortly, hopefully with the case counts going down in the next week or so, Neshaminy will be able to join that and get school back to a little bit more of a normal feel when there's a COVID positive case. So, Mr. Parentano, that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. That will bring us to our first period of public comment. Mrs. Burns, are there any sign-ups?
There are no sign-ups.
There are no sign-ups. Does anyone in the audience wish to approach the podium for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. I'll bring us to our Section 2, Routine Matters. I'd like to make a master motion for 2.01 minutes, 2.02 Treasurer's Report, 2.03 Budget Transfers, 2.04 Check Register and Procurement Card Purchases, 2.05 Bids, 2.06 Investments, and 2.07 Exonerations. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bowman. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 9-0. I'm sorry, we're missing one today. 8-0. Motion passes 8-0. Brings us to Section 3.01, Leaves of Absences. Be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following leaves of absences for administrative staff. There is one name on that list. A motion's been made for 3.01. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cirillo. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. That will bring us to section 4.01. Mr. Marrington, would you read 4.01, please?
Yeah, 4.01, retirements, resignations, end of assignments. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following retirements, resignations of certified staff, and there are 12 names on that list.
Thank you. A motion's been made for 4.01. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Kovitz? Mr. Kovitz. Any comments, questions, or concerns? I'd like to take this opportunity to make note that we have three of our certified staff leaving us, one with 35 years of service, one with 31 and a half years of service, and another with 30 years of service. Neshaminy thanks you and wishes you well in your retirement. Hearing no other questions, comments, concerns, move to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Boyle, could you read 4.02, please?
Appointments. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following appointments for certified staff. And I believe there's one. Is there one?
One name. Thank you, Mrs. Boyle. Motion's been made on 4.02. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bowman. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Bowman, could you read 4.03, please?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion, 4.03, leaves of absence. Be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following leaves of absence for certified staff. And there are four names on the list.
Motion's been made for 4.03. May I have a second? Second. Second by Mrs. Hollenbeck. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Kovitz, could you read 4.04, please?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve 4.04, revised returns from leave. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following revised return from leave of absence for certified staff. There are four names on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Kovitz. Motion's been made for 4.04. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Boyle. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Bowman, can you do 4.05, please?
4.05, co-curricular appointments. Be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following appointments for certificated and support staff, subject to the following conditions. Number one, in the event the activity is canceled for any reason, including acts of God or pursuant to any order by the Governor of Pennsylvania, Secretary of Health, prior to the commencement, the coach or advisor will receive no compensation. And/or number two, in the event that the activity is commenced and then canceled for any reason, including acts of God or pursuant to any order by the Governor of Pennsylvania Secretary of Health, the coach or advisor shall receive pro rata compensation for the period of services rendered. And there are 6 names on the list.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman. The motion's been made for 4.05. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Hollenbeck. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Hollenbeck, would you read 5.01, please?
I'd like to make a motion for 5.01, retirements, resignations, end of assignments. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following retirements, resignations, of support staff. There are 7 names on the list.
Thank you. A motion's been made for 5.01. May I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Cirillo. Any comments, questions, or concerns? I would just like to take this opportunity to thank one retiree with 19 years of service, another one with 24 years of service, and another one with 28 years of service here at Neshaminy. Neshaminy wishes you well. Thank you for your service, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. Hearing no other comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. We are tabling 5.02. That moves us to 5.03. Mr. Marrington, would you read 5.03, please?
5.03, leaves of absence. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following leaves of absence of support staff. And there are 7 names on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Marrington. Motion's been made on 5.03. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kovitz. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Boyle, would you read 5.04, please?
I'd like to make a motion to 5.04, revised return from leave. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following revised return from leave of absence of support staff, and there are 7 names.
Thank you, Ms. Boyle. Motion's been made on 5.04. May I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Cirillo. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Hollenbeck, could you read 6.01, please?
I'd like to make a motion for 6.01, Educational Settlement Agreement. Whereas the Neshaminy School District has outlined a private and confidential agreement with the family of student number 7XXXX1. Now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves providing for the educational program as specified in said agreement.
Thank you. A motion's been made for 6.01. May I have a second? Second by Mr. Allen. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Allen, would you please read 6.02?
Thank you. I'd like to bring a motion to the table, the approval of the Aramark contract for food services management. Whereas the Neshaminy School District requested proposals for a food service management company as required by law and set forth by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, Bureau of School Nutrition, and whereas upon receiving responsible responses from 5 food service management companies, and whereas upon reviewing the responses against the school district's rubric and determining that it is the best course of action for the school district to re-award a new contract to Aramark Educational Services Limited, and whereas the school district desires to enter into a food service cost reimbursement contract for a period of 1 year on July 1st, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022, with up to 4 one-year renewals upon mutual agreement between the school district and Aramark Educational Services Limited. And whereas the contract shall contain the terms, provisions, and conditions set forth in the contract of Aramark Educational Services Limited, in which the guaranteed surplus return to the school district shall be $350,000, and the management fee to Aramark Educational Services shall be $119,213.29. And whereas Aramark Educational Services shall comply with the laws, rules, regulations, policies, and instructions of Pennsylvania Department of Education, United States Department of Agriculture, and the applicable laws of the United States and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and any additions or amendments thereto, including but limited to Title VII, Parts 210, 215, 220, 245, 250, 3017, and 3018. Title II CFR Part 200, and the Title VII CFR Parts 225 SFSP and 226 CACFP as applicable. Almost there, and I can't find the page. Just making sure I got the right one. Okay, yes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the business administrator of the school district is hereby authorized and directed on behalf of the school district and under its corporate seal to execute the contract as approved by the solicitor and such other documents and affidavits, and to take such further action as may be required by law and necessary or desirable to effectuate the aforesaid food service cost reimbursable contract for 2021 through 2022 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. A motion's been made on... I had to give you a break. A motion's been made on 6.02. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Bowman. Any comments, questions, or concerns? At this time, Mr. Irwin, could you give the public a short synopsis of this item?
Yes, as you heard, we went through a very rigid RFP process. We had 5 responsible bidders, and upon review against our rubric, we believe that the best course of action for the school district was to renew with Aramark. And the one thing that we reviewed as an administration was the cost that they had put into the food product, and we believe that that cost would effectuate a continued high level of participation with the students. And in doing so, we believe that that would be the results would be the best for our school community. We believe that with no child can be taught that is hungry, and we're looking for a high participation in our breakfast and lunch programs, and we believe that this is the best course of action.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Hearing that, no additional comments, questions, or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Brings us to 6.03, ESS Substitute Service Contract. Whereas the Neshaminy School District needs staff to serve as substitutes for certified and support staff, and whereas the ESS Support Services and ESS Northeast has a multiple-year partnership with the Neshaminy School District to provide such services, and whereas the Neshaminy School District and ESS Support Services and ESS Northeast wish to continue the partnership, now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the attached one-year extension agreement with ESS Support Services and ESS Northeast for the 2021-2022 school year on April 27th, 2021. A motion's been made on 6.03. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Boyle. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Kovitz, could you read 6.04, please?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve 6.04, healthcare premiums for 2021-2022. Whereas the Neshaminy School District operates a self-insured health insurance program in order to curtail spiraling health insurance costs, and whereas the self-insurance program needs to operate at break even, and whereas the expenses for next year are projected to reach $15 million, and whereas the current rates for health insurance are not projected to meet the projected expenses, and whereas the employee contractual amount of contributions between 17% and 18% of the total premium will not change, Now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy School District premium rates for health insurance shall be raised by 3% for the fiscal year 2021-2022.
Thank you, Mr. Kovitz. A motion's been made for 6.04. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Hollenbeck. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Cirillo, would you please read 6.05?
I would like to make a motion to approve 6.05, transfer of entity from the Bucks County Intermediate Unit. Whereas the transfer of certain Neshaminy students with special education plans from the Bucks County Intermediate Unit Number 22 to certain district-operated programs will facilitate the integration and inclusion of these students in their schools, and whereas the transfer will render more efficient administration and oversight of the programming for these students and yield cost savings to the district and its taxpayers, and whereas such transfer could be subject to the transfer between entities provisions of the Public School Code. Now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the transfer of entity for the Autistic Support Level 3 programs housed at Tawanka Elementary and Maple Point Middle School from the Bucks County Intermediate Unit Number 22, and the district will adhere to any applicable provisions of Public School Code governing transfers of programs between school entities. Administration content, transfer of entity. Below is a motion. Oh, well, you didn't tell me to stop. Whereas the transfer of certain Neshaminy students with special education plans from the Bucks County Intermediate Unit Number 22 to certain district-operated programs will facilitate the integration and inclusion of these students in their schools, and whereas the transfer will render more efficient administration and oversight of the programming for these students and yield cost savings to the district and its taxpayers, and whereas such transfer could be subject to the transfer between entities provisions of the Public School Code. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the transfer of entity for the Autistic Support Level 3 programs housed at Tawanka Elementary and Maple Point Middle School from the BCIU number 22, and the district will adhere to any applicable provisions of the Public School Code governing transfers of programs between school entities.
Thank you, Mr. Cirillo. Motion's been made on 6.05. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Dr. McGee, could you just take a brief moment to explain the necessity of why we want to move in this direction?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Parentano. So basically, the Bucks County IU's function is to pool services of schools in the county and provide services that would be too expensive for individual schools to offer by pooling kids together. In these particular cases, the Bucks County IU has been doing that for Neshaminy. In this particular program, there now is sufficient number of Neshaminy students for Neshaminy to run the program itself. So basically, we're asking the Bucks County IU, I don't think we asked, but we did it, we're going to take this program back, and we're going to take the teachers that teach it, and we're going to make them Neshaminy employees. It's best for the students of Neshaminy, because they are ours, and it actually ends up saving the district money. I don't have that number off the top of my head. I apologize.
That's okay. Okay, any other comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Okay, that concludes the business portion of tonight's meeting. I'll move us to other board business. Is there any board member wish to bring board business? Hearing none. So move us to our second period of public comment. Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to approach the podium for public comment? Seeing none, we will move to board comment. Is there any board members wishing to make comment this evening? We'll start off with Dr. McGee.
I have no comments, Mr. Parentano.
Okay. Any board members wish to make any comment this evening? Go ahead, Mrs. Bowman.
I just wanted to thank the teachers that are retiring and the support staff that is retiring. Thank you so much for your service. I think we had somebody on there for 38 years, 35 years. So thank you so much for your service to the Neshaminy community, and congratulations, and I wish you well on your retirement.
Any other board? You want to go? Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
I just have two items. Number one, I want to thank Mr. Devlin for his work in what I'm going to call repatriating as many of our students as possible. As Dr. McGee pointed out, the Bucks County Intermediate Unit does wonderful work for the area districts, but as a sibling of my brother, I've said this to many, I think everyone knows this, my brother was unable to be served by Neshaminy School District at the time, and he was shipped to intermediate units in other area school districts. I mean, he was bussed all over. And he never really got a sense of the Neshaminy community that my family belonged to. So it was kind of an issue with me as I got onto the board that we try to do that, try to open up our schools and our programs to be as inclusive as possible. So I just wanted to thank Anthony for that continued work. I greatly appreciate it on a personal note. The other thing I just wanted to mention, there was a letter released from Bucks County Technical High School today regarding the availability of vaccines for the 16 and plus older students. I just wanted to make the community aware, your child's in tech, to go to the website and take a look at that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Any others? Cindy, do you want to have something else you
I'm
want to add?
sorry, I forgot one thing, and I certainly did not forget this young lady. I want to congratulate a member of our Neshaminy community that attends Bucks County Technical High School, Evelyn Deppenschmidt, for winning first place in Skills USA. Congratulations, Evelyn. I'm so proud of you. She's very close to me, and she did a great job and representing women in STEM, and congratulations, Evelyn, on your first place win.
Thank you. That'll bring us to our future meetings. First of all, for the Neshaminy public, all our virtual meetings will be posted on www.neshaminy.org/meetings on the evening of the meeting, if you want to participate at home. This May 4th, 6:30 at the district office boardrooms, we're having a joint committee meeting of both the business and facilities committees. We will discuss the budget as we look to finalize that to bring it to a board vote. And the facilities meeting, we will be discussing the Fields proposal at Neshaminy High School, as well as continuing discussion on the possibility of a new Maple Point Elementary School. That's on the 4th of May at 6:30. There will be a policy meeting on 5-6 of May, the 6th of May, 6:30, also in the district's board office meeting room. And on our next public work session is in this auditorium on May 11th at 7 o'clock. And our final board meeting for the month of May will be held on May 25th, 7 o'clock, also in this auditorium. That will move us to adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Thank you for coming out and attending.